The silence that followed Chuan's punch was absolute. Every being on the bridge held their breath, waiting for the cascade failure that would reduce their mighty fleet to cosmic dust. Seconds passed. Then minutes. Nothing happened. General Lekvar slowly raised his head, confusion replacing terror in his reptilian eyes. What? What did you do? Captain Chun's image flickered, and when it stabilized, his expression had changed completely. The grim determination was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like sadness. I gave you a choice, General, and you made the right one. I don't understand, Admiral Korek said, her voice barely above a whisper. The countdown reached 0. The button was pressed. The countdown was real, Chun confirmed. The weapons are real. The threat was completely genuine. But the final activation required one specific condition to be met. He paused, letting his words sink in. It required that at least one coalition leader be willing to abandon their pride and beg for mercy. Commander Zeph's forearms trembled as the implications hit him. You were testing us. Humanity has been testing the entire galaxy for 3 years, Chun replied. Every battle, every defeat, every last stand was gathering data about who you really are. Not your technology, not your tactics, but your fundamental nature as sentient beings. The hologram shifted, showing the interior of the human bunker for the first time. It wasn't a desperate last refuge they had imagined. The facility was massive, well-lit, and filled with hundreds of humans working at sophisticated equipment. They had food, water, and enough supplies to last years. This wasn't a tomb, it was a command center. The Coalition spent 3 years trying to prove that humanity was too dangerous to exist, Chun continued. You said we were unpredictable, violent, and unwilling to follow galactic law. You were right about all of that, but you missed the most important thing about us. Vekvar found himself leaning forward despite everything. Which is, we learn from everything, from everyone, even from our enemies. Chun gestured toward something off-camera, and the view expanded to show a massive laboratory. Alien scientists from dozens of species worked alongside human researchers, their faces focused and determined. For every world you destroyed, we saved 1,000 refugees. For every battle you won, we recruited new allies who had grown tired of coalition tyranny. The truth began to dawn on Admiral Korex, the other species, the ones who supposedly joined our war effort. Many of them came to us instead, Chun confirmed. Turns out, when you're willing to commit genocide to solve political problems, a lot of people start questioning whether they want to be on your side. The Siliconids brought their environmental expertise. The quantum minds shared their mathematical knowledge. Even some of your own people started sending us intelligence. Commander Zeph stared at the displays showing their dead fleet. But the weapons, the quantum cascade, you could have destroyed us all. Yes, we could have, Chun said quietly. And for a while, that was the plan. Total mutual destruction. If humanity burned, we'd take the galaxy with us. He paused, his expression growing thoughtful. But then something interesting happened. We realized that revenge wasn't what we really wanted. What did you want? Vekvar asked, though he was beginning to suspect the answer. We wanted to see if you could change. If any of you were capable of growth, empathy, or learning from mistakes. Chun's image zoomed in slightly. The quantum weapons weren't designed to destroy your technology, General. They were designed to disable it temporarily. Your ships will be back online within the hour. Your weapons will function normally. Your civilization will continue to exist. The bridge erupted in confused voices as officers tried to process this information. But Chin wasn't finished. However, your war machine is now completely dependent on technology that we control. Every ship, every weapon, every computer system in your fleet has been quantum tagged. If we detect any aggressive action against civilian populations, any attempt at genocide, any return to your old ways of solving problems, we can shut down your entire military infrastructure with a single command. Admiral Korex found her voice first. You're holding us hostage? No, Chun corrected. We're giving you supervision. Think of it as galactic parole. You get to keep your weapons, your ships, and your territory. But if you use them to commit atrocities, there will be consequences. The implications were staggering. Humanity had just ended the war not through superior firepower, but through superior strategy and moral positioning. They had turned their impending extinction into a teaching moment for the entire galaxy. But why? Thekvar asked. After everything we did to your species, why show mercy? Chun was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of genuine emotion. Because someone had to be better. Someone had to prove that intelligence and technology could be used for more than just bigger ways to kill each other. If we had destroyed you, we would have become everything you accused us of being. The communication system flickered and Chun's image began to fade, but his voice remained clear. Your fleet will be operational soon. Your people will want to know what happened here. You can tell them that humanity is extinct and live with the lie. Or you can tell them the truth, that sometimes the greatest victory is knowing when not to fight. General Thekvar stood slowly, his massive frame somehow seeming smaller than before. Around him, his officers began receiving reports that ship systems were indeed coming back online. The war was over, but not in any way they could have imagined. As the image finally disappeared, the last words from Captain Marcus Chun echoed. Through the silent bridge, welcome to the new galaxy, General. Try not to mess it up. Outside the viewport, the mysterious geometric structures began to fade from view, returning to whatever hidden dimensions they had emerged from. The Coalition fleet hung motionless in space, technically victorious but fundamentally transformed. The war was over. Humanity was gone, but somehow, in the strangest twist imaginable, everyone had won. Captain Marcus Chin's words hung in the air like a death sentence. General Thekvar felt his blood run cold as the implications sank in. The humans shouldn't know their fleet positions. He definitely shouldn't know that virtually every Coalition admiral, general, and military leader was aboard the Zirian's Pride for this historic moment. Impossible, Admiral Corex whispered, her blue skin paling to an almost transparent shade. Our communications are encrypted. Our positions are classified. You've been fighting us for 3 years, Chun continued from the hologram, his smile growing wider. Did you really think we weren't learning? Every frequency you use, every code you transmit, every tactical pattern you follow? We've been watching, listening, and preparing. Commander Zeph's 4 arms moved frantically across his control panels. Sir, I'm detecting massive energy buildups throughout the system. Something's powering up. Thekvar spun toward his tactical officer, a crystalline Valtari whose body was flashing urgent red patterns. Report! Unknown energy signatures appearing at coordinates ... Everywhere, sir. They're not on any of our sensors, but gravitational distortions indicate massive objects decloaking throughout the system. On the hologram, Chun chuckled. You see, there's something you never understood about humans. We don't just fight to win. We fight to survive. And survival means making sure our enemies can't come back for round 2. The main viewport suddenly filled with light as enormous structures materialized from nowhere. They weren't ships in any conventional sense. They looked like geometric nightmares, all angles and edges that hurt to look at directly. Each one was easily the size of a small moon, and there were dozens of them positioned throughout the system. Stealth technology beyond our comprehension, the tactical officer chimed in harmonics of pure terror. How long have they been there? Years, probably, Chun answered as if he could hear them. We've had a lot of time to prepare while you were busy glassing our colonies. Every defeat taught us something new. Every destroyed world gave us more motivation. Every refugee became a researcher working on our contingency plans. Admiral Corex grabbed Thekvar's arm with both hands. We need to retreat. Now, signal the fleet to... Her words were cut off as every screen on the bridge flickered and died. Emergency lighting kicked in, casting everything in an ominous red glow. The ship's engines, which had been humming constantly for months, fell silent. Electromagnetic pulse weapons, Commander Zeph reported unnecessarily. Ship-wide systems failure, but how? Our shielding should protect us from anything they could. Your shielding protects you from known technology, Chun interrupted. The hologram was somehow still functioning despite the ship-wide power loss. But you've never seen quantum entanglement weapons before. They don't actually fire at your ships. They fire at the quantum particles that make up your ship's components. Distance and shields are irrelevant when we're attacking the subatomic level. Throughout the massive command vessel, similar scenes were playing out. Thousands of coalition officers found themselves trapped in dead ships, their advanced technology reduced to expensive metal sculptures. The Pride of 12 Worlds sat powerless in space, watching as humanity's final gambit unfolded, but Chun wasn't finished. "There's one more thing you need to understand about humans," he said, his voice carrying across the silent bridge. "We don't believe in half measures." Vekvar found his voice despite his growing dread. "What do you want, human? Surrender? Negotiation? Your species is still dying in that bunker." "Oh, this isn't about us," Chun replied. "This is about you." The human reached off-camera and pulled something into view. It looked like a simple metal box with a red button on top. Nothing fancy, nothing high-tech. Just a basic detonator that any civilization with electricity could build. You see, while you were celebrating the extinction of humanity, we were making sure that celebration would be your last. Those quantum weapons aren't just disabling your ships. They're rewriting the quantum signature of every piece of coalition technology in this system. Your ships, your weapons, your computers, even your implants and medical devices. Horror dawned on Admiral Corex's face as she understood. "You're going to destroy everything." "Not destroy," Shin corrected. "Transform." In exactly 30 seconds, every piece of advanced technology within 50 light-years will undergo quantum cascade failure. Your ships will become inert matter. Your space stations will lose structural cohesion. Your weapons will become harmless metal. Your entire military infrastructure will simply stop existing as anything more than raw atoms. Vekvar lunged toward the communications console, his massive claws scraping against the dead controls. "You can't. The civilian populations. The trade routes. Billions will die." "Funny," Chun said, his smile disappearing for the first time. "That's exactly what we said when you started glassing our worlds. But you told us that war was war, and civilians were acceptable casualties." The countdown had begun automatically on every screen that still functioned. 25 seconds, 24, 23. "This is madness." Commander Zeph shouted. "You're committing genocide on a galactic scale?" "No," Chun replied quietly. "We're committing justice on a universal scale. You wanted to exterminate humanity because we were inconvenient. Now you get to learn what extinction feels like." 15 seconds, 14, 13, General Vekvar, desperate and running out of options, did something that no Drakmori had done in over 1,000 years of military history. He dropped to his knees and begged. "Please," he said, his voice breaking. "There has to be another way. Some form of negotiation, anything." Chun studied the alien general for a long moment. Then he raised his fist, positioning it directly over the detonator button. 5 seconds, 4, 3. "There is one thing you can do." Chun said .2. "Anything," Vekvar whispered .1. Chun single quotes as fist came down hard on the button. The massive command ship Zirian's Pride hummed with celebration as thousands of alien warriors filled its corridors. The Galactic Coalition forces had finally done it. After 3 brutal years of war, they had cornered the last human resistance on the barren moon of Kepler 442c. The humans were trapped in their final bunker, cut off from supplies, reinforcements, and hope. General Vekvar, a towering reptilian from the Drakmori Empire, stood before the massive viewport watching the orbital bombardment light up the moon's surface like deadly fireworks. His scaled lips curved into what his species considered a smile. Behind him, officers from 12 different worlds celebrated in their own ways. The insectoid Japhirians clicked their mandibles in rhythmic patterns, while the crystalline Veltari chimed in harmonic frequencies that made the ship's hull vibrate. 3 years, Vekvar rumbled to his second-in-command, a 4-armed Nexari named Commander Zeph. 3 years, these humans have delayed the inevitable. No more. The celebration had begun hours ago when their scouts confirmed the human situation. Trapped underground with maybe 2 days of oxygen left, no escape routes, and only a handful of survivors. The mighty human fleet that had once terrorized the galaxy was nothing but space debris floating around distant stars. Their colonies were ash. Their homeworld was a quarantined wasteland. Admiral Corax, the blue-skinned Aquarian who led the Coalition's naval forces, approached the viewport with a goblet of fermented algae in her webbed hands. "The humans fought well," she said, her voice carrying the melodic tones of her waterworld origins. "I admit they surprised us with their tenacity." Surprised? Dagvar's laugh was like grinding stone. "They cost us 40 billion lives across 60 worlds. They turned war into an art form. But tenacity without numbers is just delayed extinction." The war had started when humanity ventured too far into Coalition space. At first, the aliens had welcomed them with curiosity. Humans seemed so ordinary. They weren't the strongest species. That honor belonged to the Drakmori. They weren't the smartest. The Nexari held that distinction. They couldn't survive in hostile environments like the Siliconids. Couldn't calculate hyperspace jumps like the quantum mines. Couldn't even live as long as most Coalition races. But when territorial disputes arose, when resources became scarce, when politics turned ugly, the humans revealed something the Coalition had never encountered. They didn't just fight to win. They fought to survive. And survival meant using every trick, every advantage, every desperate gambit imaginable. Human pilots flew damaged ships on kamikaze runs that should have been impossible. Human soldiers held positions long after their ammunition ran out, using improvised weapons and hand-to-hand combat. Human civilians became guerrilla fighters, turning everyday tools into instruments of war. They fought with a creativity born of desperation that shocked the more civilized Coalition forces. "Remember the Battle of Proxima Station?" Commander Zeph asked, his forearms gesturing as he spoke. "They turned cargo containers into kinetic missiles." "Who does that?" "Or the Siege of New Terra," Admiral Corax added. "They collapsed their own cities to trap our ground forces in the rubble." "Such waste." Thekvar nodded grimly. "They fight like cornered beasts. No honor, no rules, no limits. That's why they had to be eliminated completely." The Coalition had learned to respect human unpredictability, but respect and fear were two different things. Despite their creativity, humans were still limited by physics, biology, and mathematics. They had finite resources, finite numbers, finite worlds. The Coalition had hundreds of member species, thousands of worlds, and virtually unlimited industrial capacity. The war's turning point came when the Coalition stopped trying to capture human worlds and simply started destroying them from orbit. Human adaptability meant nothing against planet-cracking weapons fired from light years away. Their clever tactics were useless when their supply lines were cut by coordinated attacks on shipping routes. Their fighting spirit couldn't overcome the simple reality of overwhelming numerical superiority. Now, as the last human stronghold prepared for its final moments, the Coalition's greatest military minds gathered to witness the end of an era. The humans would be remembered as formidable opponents, but they would be remembered as extinct formidable opponents. "Sir," a young Valtari communications officer chimed urgently. "We're receiving a transmission from the human bunker." The celebration quieted as Thekvar turned toward the communications station. "Put it through." A holographic display flickered to life, showing a dimly lit underground chamber. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows on concrete walls. And there, standing in the center of the image, was a single human male in a tattered military uniform. He looked tired, dirty, and completely alone, but he was smiling. "Attention Coalition forces," the human said calmly. "This is Captain Marcus Chun of the Terran Defense Force. Before you finish us off, I wanted to thank you for gathering your entire command structure in one convenient location. The celebration on the Zirian's pride died completely.